Greetings, everyone. I am Monique Ruffin, the Moon Mama, and I wanted to come in and just talk a little bit about what's happening in our reality, in our world, and possibly some of the things that we can do to begin to help ourselves heal. So, the suicide rate in America has been increasing over the last decade on a regular, consistent basis. The reason that we are um, that I see that we are experiencing such high rates of suicide in young people and men and just people of all demographics is because our country is anchored in what is white supremacy and the constructs of whiteness. Now, the challenge with this is not about people per se. These are about ideas, constructs, identities that we are born into, that we aspire to, and that we subconsciously agree with um, by the way that we participate in our cultural experiences. Now, it's important for us to really understand that whiteness in and of itself is a made up construct. Whiteness is not white people. People from Europe came to America and assumed the identity of whiteness because whiteness is what was sold in order to um, grow this country. It because America in its early years um, needed innovation and 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 labor and power. It did two things. It it went it went to Africa to bring free labor through the African people who would be enslaved, and then it invited Europeans to come and experience the wealth of what was being created out of the free labor of 250 years. But at the root of this was a divisive idea, which is white supremacy. So this duality was created where black people are the undesirables, the lower caste system, and white people are the higher caste system and the more desirable energy. And then there were so many categories within were um, that were cast, right? So black people are not human. Black people don't have a high IQ. Black people aren't worthy of life. Black people should be in prison. Like all of these sort of categories aligned to these various identities. White people are more educated, are superior. White people are more civilized. White people have more money. White people are more intellectual. All of these categories got assigned to these identities, and then the people who continued to come here did their best to align themselves to what we, the higher realms of whiteness, whether they were actually white or not. Now, the challenge with whiteness is that it is designed to only extract. It does not give anything. It functions outside of the laws of nature or against the laws of nature. Um, and nature functions in this agreement between elements and seasons and the mundane to give and take. It is a nature is a system of harmony or balance, so should we say, where whiteness is not that at all. It does the very opposite of what the natural cycles does. It only takes, it only oppresses. It does not make itself accountable or responsible to um, to any of the systems that would allow it to be balanced. It's a very interesting thing because in our American government, they created three branches of government to keep one another balanced: the judicial, the congressional, the legislative, and the executive branches of government to keep a balance. And we see that it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Even our government is finally going out of balance because it is anchored in ideas of supremacy. It is anchored in ideas of oppression, and it doesn't tell the full story. So there is a duality that we all continue to ride between that divides us against ourselves because in nature cycles, everything is a part of everything. Where in white supremacy, this is good and this is bad and it is undesirable, and so we should reject it, we should resist it, we should deny ourselves of it. And what white supremacy denies is our humanity. It denies our feelings. You're not allowed to have feelings in white supremacy because if you feel anything, you go against the mundane world. White supremacy and whiteness, which to me are one and the same, that most people aspire to because of capitalism and imperialism, but it does not honor the totality of of what our world is. Everything we see is not everything we are. Everything we see is not everything we are. And so this idea of whiteness is truly whiteness in itself is mental illness. It is mental illness because it denies the mystery. It denies the cycles. It denies the diversity. It denies that there is a complexity in our own humanity and in the world that is beyond our understanding, that is beyond the rational mind. And whiteness totally relies on rationality or reason, which is just half of the picture. While whiteness also says that your feelings don't matter. It doesn't matter that you feel a certain thing or that you need a certain thing because if you're not strong enough to acquire what you need through the oppression and the predatory nature of whiteness, then you don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. And so over the last really 1500 years, but in America, 600 years or so, what's going on now is the energy that whiteness has used to elevate itself, which was the energy of black people. As black people become more and more and more adjacent to whiteness, whiteness no longer has anything to polarize itself in. And so we begin to see these things of epidemic proportions like prison systems, suicide rates, illness, divorce, all of these things that show us how we are disconnected from ourselves, that we are not in alignment with something greater than the pursuit of things, the pursuit and the domination of the mundane world, which is a very, very, very small percentage of this entire reality. So it's almost as if we have exhausted our energy in this mundane world. And the thing that's tricky for black people is that black people need to be connected to the invisible and unseen realities in order to thrive. Why? Because we are melanin based people. We are tapped into the nature cycles. We are tapped into the power of the sun, the power of the moon. We are connected to these forces. We are inextricably connected to these forces. We cannot disconnect from them. And because whiteness does not acknowledge them, does not align to any accountability within these systems, and we are currently aspiring to this in capitalistic, imperialistic ways because it's all we've been taught, because we aspire to it, we begin to feel the deep void of our disconnection from who we really are. Our disconnection from the spirit of who we are, our ancestors, the earth, the cycles, the natural systems that are created by God, the Creator. And we have aligned ourselves to practices even like Christianity, which are truly also devoid of God. Because the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are absent the nature of God, which is the coming together of the masculine and the feminine to create a new life. And with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, there is no life that can be created because masculine energy does not create. It is the feminine that does that. And so here we find ourselves at this incredible crossroads. A crossroads that is inviting us into an experience of accountability. Are we willing to see ourselves? Or are we going to continue to pretend and deny that our actions, that the choices that we are making are doing more harm to us than good? Are we willing to see ourselves? And the thing about whiteness or white supremacy or racism, we cannot expect white people to end it. We cannot, they do not know how. They do not know how to do anything any different. This system is born out of their idea. So we cannot ask them to create something else. Einstein said you cannot solve the problem at the same level of the problem that it was created. So the only thing that can really put an end to whiteness or white supremacy or racism is Black people's willingness to abandon these practices, to become innovative and create new ways of being that are anchored in our ancestry, anchored in our DNA structures, anchored in our spiritual, unseen, divine connection to the universe. And as we begin to part ways with the cycles of Christmas and New Year's and capitalism and false religions like religions like Christianity that take us away from the natural practices, as we disconnect from these ways of being and begin to connect in to natural practices and honoring our own systems and who we are, our mental condition will improve greatly. Because mental illness is connected and born out of whiteness and white supremacy, the pursuit of things that really had no value beyond the external experience, and begin to pursue our authentic feeling and be the truth, live the truth of who we really are. And we cannot expect or anticipate white people or whiteness to do this of its own accord. It cannot and will not. It is our own responsibility and love for ourselves that would give us the permission to begin to practice the ancient practices that our ancestors left for us all over the world in nature. And only we can choose it, and the choice is really up to us. But it is available. And so I have created solutions because I long realized that this system was going to eat me alive. And so I had to find ways to align myself to things that were eternal and natural and cyclical, to have peace, to understand that there are ups and downs and ins and outs, and that I am a part of it all. But I must acknowledge my I must acknowledge myself as a part of it all, and I must acknowledge the allness as greater than me. And so as Black people begin to wake up and choose into a new way of being, a new way of thinking, a new way of connecting ourselves to the greater good of this universe, as we begin to do this, our minds will begin to heal. Our emotions will begin to realign. We will begin to feel into the mystery and the uncertainty that is the true nature of who we are. And as we do this, our lives will change. This country will change because we are the force that connects to the sun, to nature through our melanin. And it is only our joy and our fulfillment and our deep acceptance and love of ourselves and the practices that back this up, that back up these new way of being, the practices, the consistency and the devotion to it, can we heal and be released from this cycle of death that we have been in for the last 400 years. It is not until we begin to release ourselves. We cannot anticipate any others doing this for us. This is our own work. And as we do so, we literally will change this physical world reality because of our connection to nature. But we must acknowledge our own internal feelings and ways of being as supreme above all else. Peace and blessings. I'm the Moon Mama. Thank you very much. I love you. Bye-bye.